Hello and welcome to Through Africa. It is still me, your host, Mercy Bamgola, and today we'll be continuing our discussion on the Ghana elections, and specifically we'll be talking about the rise in swing voting amongst voters in Ghana. To discuss more about this topic, I'll be speaking with two of our important guests, Mr. Mohammed Abdul Rahman, who is a PhD candidate at the University of Ibn Khaldun in Istanbul, and with Dr. Mohammed Mubarique, who is the President, Ghana Development and Cooperation Organization in Turkey. Hello, Mr. Mohammed and Mr. Muntaka.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, and welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, so
Thank you.
I would like to start with Mr. Muntaka. We know that there are 16 regions in Ghana. How would you, in your opinion, say that the different regions are preparing for the elections?
Yes, I think looking at the history of the regions in Ghana, up until 2016, we had only 10 regions. And I think after 2016, it was expanded to 16 regions. That is, some regions were carved out of certain regions. And talking about the elections, all the regions are really gearing up for the elections. The Greater Accra region is having, that is the capital city, is having one of the larger voter population, and followed by the Ashanti region. So these are two interesting regions to look out for. Also, the voter region, which was a stronghold of the opposition, was also divided into two regions. They had the voter and the OT region. And so we'd like to see how the new OT region will be conducting itself this time around, taking into consideration that in the last election, there was a particular community that was not allowed to vote. That is the South. We call them, the short name was South. There was an issue as to whether they were to join one particular constituency or not. And as a date, I've not seen anything talking about the resolution of that particular issue. But in general, all the 16 regions, all the political parties, all the 13 political parties are campaigning vigorously. They're moving around the country. I know the vice president has moved around almost all the 275 constituencies. Likewise, the opposition leader, His Excellency John Dramani Mohammed, the former president, he has also gone around through all the regions, and they are on the grounds, actually. They've strategically positioned their people, moving in region by region, their youth organizers, their women organizers, their communication officers, everybody, and the vice presidential candidates who are supporting their main candidates are all moving around, trying to gather as much votes as they can. And it will be interesting to see what is going to happen. Let me also add that there has been some polls being done region by region to see how the candidates are going to perform. They are just polls, they are not predictions. And so people should understand the difference. These guys are just doing polls, they are not predicting. So, and the most recent one from the Global Info Analytics is showing that especially from three new regions, the Bono region, the Afro region in particular, the incumbent government is doing better than the opposition in those two regions. So you are likely to see some fireworks coming next 2 weeks, December 7th. Everybody is gearing up, and we are also monitoring events closely from Istanbul here. So that is it. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much for that, Mr. Muntaka. Now let's move to Dr. Mohammed. We know
Yes.
that there's been an increase in Ghanaian swing voters. These are voters that change their mind in who to vote for, different parties to vote for in the election. What would you say is the reasons, or are the reasons for this?
Okay. Thank you very much, and good afternoon to your viewers. Well, when it comes to voting in Ghana, traditionally, voting, one of the factors that have played a very significant role in voting have been tribe, and if you want to call it I think with tribe. Okay, tribe has been one major factor that have played a very significant role in voting. You go to the Ashanti region, it is predominantly the New Patriotic Party, which is the incumbent government now, or the incumbent party. You go to the Volta region, for instance, it is predominantly the main opposition party supporters. And so this has a lot to do with the tribe and also the history of these two parties in Ghana. Yes, as you mentioned, people are becoming much more sophisticated these days. Education is a very key reason behind the swing voting pattern that we are observing recently. People have become much more exposed to knowledge, they have become much more enlightened, and they become much more open-minded. So they move beyond the traditional, party, die-hearted party approach to more of a pressing issue. They are more interested in parties that will be ready to address their concerns. So yeah, education is one key factor. The second factor that we can talk about is failed promises of the political leadership. You see, people have entrusted them based on promises that they have made to them. They come to power, and most of the times, unfortunately, they are not able to fulfill those promises. And so people always look for alternative, all right, to entrust rather than renew their trust in the failed government or in the party that has failed them. So that can also be a very key factor, especially now. The economic hardship bites everyone. It doesn't really matter which party you support. The economic hardship is there and everybody is affected. So people would definitely look at their situation and then see how much their lives have improved over the years. And then they use that to take a decision. So obviously, it is also a key factor. You know, lack of transformation in the lives of the people is a key factor which has contributed to the swing voting pattern that we have. Another factor you can also talk about is maybe you can talk about age. Okay, I think that one of the key factors that we saw in the research on this swing voting pattern touch on age of voters. It demonstrated that older people are more likely to swing their vote to a different party compared to a younger generation. And I think this makes a lot of sense because older people have a lot of responsibilities on their shoulders. I said before in my second submission that look, the economic hardship bites everybody, and older people would definitely be the most affected. They have responsibilities to take care of their kids, to take care of families, and many other more things they have to take care of. And so if the power they used to have in the past has all of a sudden dwindled significantly, and they are struggling to cope or to meet up with those responsibilities, then obviously they are going to change their mind when it comes to another election cycle. And there is something much more intriguing from the current research or recent research on this swing vote. They discovered that men are more likely to swing their vote compared to women. One explanation somebody could ask why. Well, I think that it has a lot to do with the patriarchal system that we practice over there in Ghana. In a patriarchal society where chunk of the responsibility rests on the shoulders of men, they always have to ask the question, is our life better now, or are we struggling to meet up or to keep up to our own responsibilities? So yeah, multiplicity of factors can be identified to have contributed to these seeming swing voting patterns that we see in our elections these days. Of course, we can also talk about to what extent is this really common, especially in those traditionally designated areas. I mean, I have talked about Ashanti region, which is predominantly MPP. I've talked about also the Volta region, which is predominantly NDC, the main opposition party. we can talk about the magnitude of the swing. You will see that, yes, even though we still have swing voters, maybe the rate at which this is happening is very, 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 very low in these two areas, because these are two areas that have taken very strong positions with respect to which political party to support. And like I said, it has a lot more to do with it has a lot more to do with ethnic and also historical background of these two parties.
All right there, Mr. Mohammed. Speaking of the economy, I would like to direct this next question to Mr. Muntaka. So at the end of 2022, the annual inflation rate hit 54%, and it has come down since then, but prices of goods and services are still skyrocketing. So this issue has led to the exodus of many Ghanaian youths. We have Ghanaian youths leaving the country to seek for greener pastures. How does the NDP and the MPP, as the main political parties in this election, how do they plan to tackle this?
Yes, as you rightly said, but before I tackle that, I need to add something to the swing voting pattern. It's interesting that the same report also mentioned that the Votarians are less likely, or the Ewas are less likely to swing as compared to the Ashantis. And it's pretty important. So that is why almost everybody, especially the opposition, is trying to focus more of its resources in the Ashanti region, because out of every 10 Ashantis, 7 of them is voting NPP. So when you're able to increase your margin there, then you are likely to offset some of the differences that will happen in other regions. Now, coming to your question of economics, yes, in 2022, we had one of the highest inflation, and then it dropped, and then it has gone up again. It has caused a lot of hardship in the system as the disposable income of people is becoming lesser and lesser. Prices of goods and services are going up, and it is making things very difficult for the young people. For this reason, most young people will sell whatever they have and everything that they can. They will be able to. They are trying to sell them just to get out of Ghana to find greener pastures somewhere. And this phenomenon has taken the highest increase in the last 8 years. And I think within last month or last 2 months, Ghanaians who have been applying for the American visa lottery, we have superseded Nigeria in terms of application. That should tell you the kind of economic hardship we are facing. Now, someone would ask, what brought us here? Several factors. People are mentioning Russia, Ukraine, people are mentioning COVID-19 and all these things, but it all boils down to the management of the economy. And one of the things that is driving inflation in Ghana too is our exchange rate. We can't run away from that. And if our currency can depreciate from 4.2 to $1 in 2016 to almost 70 in 2024, it tells you that when you put your money in the bank, or if you want to get $10,000 in 2016, you need less money to get $10,000 in 2016 as compared to today. So if I'm an importer, and looking at Ghana, we are import dependent. We import most of our food products. So if I'm importing and I'm supposed to spend too much cedis in importing foods, definitely I'll push the costs to the consumer, and the consumer is going to suffer. So this is one of the key issues that is making life difficult. The exchange rate has exacerbated the situation. Now, to even add something that for 2 years, we have not been paying our external debts. So in a normal sense, it means that we should have enough forex to be able to shore up the exchange differences. But it turns out to be that even though we are not paying our external debts, we are not paying our debts to external borrowers, both in the Eurobond market and the domestic bond ones, after the DDEP program that we did, just to be able to create some fiscal space for the government, still our inflation is going up. And that is a big problem. Now, to control the exodus of the youth going outside, I think that both parties, or if I'm talking about this government should look at putting in policies or programs or incentives to help the youth to be able to generate or do their own business. Most of the young people, the reason why they are going out is because the environment is not good enough for them to do business. So if a government, you are not saying government cannot employ anybody, cannot employ all of us. So what you do is that you create enabling environments so that people who have innovative ideas, who have business ideas, can be able to expand, innovate, and you create more entrepreneurs. And how do you do that? One of the key things to do is look at your borrowing rate or the interest rate from banks. Our interest rate is very high. Which young person at this time will go to a bank without any business experience that has a good proposal, goes to the bank and gets a support from the bank and a loan? The loan in itself is about 25 to 30%. You can pay. Even the big businesses are struggling to pay. How much more a young person who is trying very hard to put in certain small business together? It's really difficult. So for both, if post 2024 into 2025, any government that is coming, what I expect is that put in an enabling environment, try to control or put in certain monetary policies that will be from the demand side, not from the supply. From the demand side, at least lower the interest rate for businesses to be able to, or for companies to be able to take loans and expand their businesses, or possibly as a government put in initiatives. But the problem is, in Ghana, we have several initiatives for the young people, but it is being given to political cronyism. The cronies of political parties are the ones hijacking all these projects. You can talk about the GIDA, the YE, the Youth Employment Agency, what initiative, and you go there, the young person who has finished undergraduate or has finished his master's with a good business proposal, a good business ideas, and goes, and the point is, if you don't belong to party A or party B, and you don't demonstrate that you belong to that particular party, you are sometimes neglected. And you find that they give these monies to party chairmen, to party communicators, to party foot soldiers who have no understanding of business. And within 2-3 years, this money is gone. So it's a complex situation that is making the youth to run away from Ghana. And if any government is coming into power, to look at detached politics from these programs, detach the politics from these programs. And if possible, if you can't detach it, then don't create any fund or anything. Make the environment good for private sector to be able to invest. Once the private sector is investing properly, then more youth are going to get more jobs. So if I hear somebody talking about a 24-hour economy system, I ask, how are you going to do it? And when I listen to, Dr. Mushitano, who was explaining, because he was the chairman of the committee that wrote that particular proposal, I watched him on City TV in Ghana, and he explained it in a fantastic idea. He himself is a private sector person. He's a big farmer, and he is the one who championed this. And when he explained it, I got to understand perfectly that, okay, this is a very good project. And if the incoming government is able to roll out this particular project perfectly, then the exodus of the young people going outside is going to be curtailed completely. And secondly, there was a research paper written by one Ghanaian scholar, professor in the UK, looking at, he was trying to run a simulation of the 24-hour economy in the Ghanaian system, holding everything constant. And it shows clearly that if we remove the de facto things that is happening now, and then put in a 24-hour economy in a system, removing all the negatives that we know, taking them out, Ghana is going to grow at an exponential rate. More jobs is going to be created, and more young people will stay in the country and work for the country.
Okay, Mr. Muntaka, thank you very much for that. I would like to direct this next question to Mr. Mohammed. You are the head of the Ghana Development and Cooperation Organization in Turkey. So I would like to specifically ask you, how is the Ghanaian diaspora reacting to the preparations towards the election? Or what are their views about the election?
All right. right. Thank you very much. Before I come to that, I will take a little time to comment on the submission made by my brother. You ask about the exodus of young people and what the two parties are proposing as the solution to that. Well, if I listen to the opposition party carefully, they are proposing the 24-hour economy, which he touched on. The 24-hour economy is meant to create more jobs because companies that will be part of the 24-hour economy will be given some incentives to allow them to be able to produce more. And that would mean that a lot of people would have job offers. This is one flagship program that the opposition party is proposing, which I think that it's a laudable program. We would have to go into the details of how the implementation will happen. I have some few concerns I'll raise on this one, but I will talk about what the incumbent is also proposing, and then I will sum all of them and talk about, then I come to your question. The incumbent is also for the youth, because your question was directed at the youth. You were asking how to stop the exodus of young people. I have heard the vice president, who is the flag bearer of the ruling party, also talk about 1 million literacy skills for the young people. And I find that very, very commendable. Of course, I do not know why specifically 1 million. I want to believe that 1 million is for a certain period. I'm not too sure of the details, but it's an acknowledgement of the importance of science and technology today. You see, once we are able to empower our young people with the proper literacy skills, it doesn't really matter where they are. They'll be able to secure jobs remotely, and that would earn them some money and reduce the pressure on the economy as well, And so that is very, very commendable. Both policies are good. One area which I would like to touch on more, especially with respect to the two policies, have to be it's about matters of entrepreneurship. You see, the whole educational system has been configured in such a way that people are trained to graduate and think about getting jobs in government institutions and getting jobs. Just getting jobs to go and work and get their salary. But you see, government cannot provide everybody with a job. That is a reason why we need to have a system where young people will be empowered, will be supported, so that they can go into entrepreneurship initiatives. Okay, they can run their own small businesses and make some small money out of it. That way, they will feel really, really the need for them to stay in the country, and move on. Because outside Ghana is also not good. A lot of the people who have traveled are stuck. I know some of them are still looking for a job. Some of them are even finding it difficult, getting an accommodation where they can even stay. So the challenges outside in itself, the challenges are too many for them. So beyond simply these two, 24-hour economy and digital literacy, which are commendable, I think that the direction should be more focused on how to empower our young people to go into entrepreneurship. Ghana is a country that we can describe the economy as partly agrarian, which means that we rely on agriculture. How many young people are encouraged to go into agriculture, for instance? Agriculture is the heart of every single country in the world. Everybody will eat, no matter what. So, but how many young people are encouraged to go into agriculture? And I think that policies should be focused on this to make agriculture and the food industry an inviting place for the young people, to see that they have opportunities there to grow without necessarily having to rely extensively on the government. The second thing, which my brother touched on, it has to also do with taxes. What kind of employment climate do we create as a country? 24-hour economy is good. It's good and must be supported. But the bottom line is this: if you have 24-hour economy and people are going to still be paying a lot of taxes, then it's going to be a problem, because that would mean that they cannot employ a lot of people to work. Yes, but the good thing is that I'm told the policy will also bring in some kind of tax reliefs to companies that agree to be part of the 24-hour economy, which is a commendable thing.
All right, Dr.
Again,
Mohammed, I would have to come in here. We will take a very quick commercial break, and then we'll come back to this discussion.
Okay, that's
all right. Thank you very much. Hello and welcome back to Through Africa. We took a very quick commercial break, and we are back to discussing the Ghana elections and the rise in swing voting amongst the citizens. And we've been talking with Mr. Mohammed Muntaka Abdurrahman, who is a PhD candidate at Ibn Khaldun University, Istanbul, and Dr. Mohammed Mubarique, who is the president of the Ghana Development and Cooperation Organization in Turkey. Hello, Mr. Mohammed.
Hello. Yes.
We were having a discussion with you before the break, so I would like you to continue from there.
Yeah. You asked about the views of Ghanaians in the diaspora about the coming election. Of course, I decided I try to add a little to what my brother mentioned with respect to the exodus of young people and what the two parties are proposing as a solution. Beyond that, I'm just coming back to the question you asked. Well, when it comes to Ghanaians in the diaspora, everybody is, we are all keen on seeing the outcome of this election. For us, the most important thing is to see that the election is conducted under the atmosphere of it's conducted free and fair. And then also, we particularly call on the Electoral Commission to ensure that they discharge their constitutionally mandated role without any fear or any kind of intimidation from anybody, any fear of intimidation. We particularly charge on the incumbent government, the president especially. They are in charge of all the state security apparatus to ensure that Ghana, as a country which is known as a beacon of democracy in Africa, okay, we continue to maintain that same positive image. This election is not the first time we have an election of this nature. Ghana has had series of elections in the past. It's been largely peaceful. And so we are praying and expecting that the necessary actors, state actors, will ensure that this particular one is also peaceful. With respect to the outcome, well, we are examining both policies. We see that they have a lot of similarities. And so, there is no clear-cut, actually, detachment from the two manifestos. You see that most of the things they propose, except the 24-hour economy, which is the flagship program of the opposition party. Beyond that, all the other things is sort of the same thing they're all talking about. So we will only wish that the election is done successfully and that peacefully, and then the loser will concede, and then the Electoral Commission will go on to declare whoever wins the election without any fear or favor. And we call on also the media, particularly, to be very circumspect in their reportage of the election, to make sure that everything that is put out is verified so that we can minimize or we can avoid misinformation and disinformation, because these things have the tendency to jeopardize, the electoral, the peace of our country. and plunge the country into chaos. So yes, I mean, in sum, we are very eager to see that the election takes place peacefully and, most importantly, transparently.
All right, then, Dr. Mubarique, thank you very much. Now I'll move to Mr. Mohammed. I would just like to give a little background. We'll be talking now about the climate, the climate issue and the environmental issue going on in Ghana. So at the just concluded COP29 in Baku, that was in Azerbaijan, Ghana launched an ambitious climate prosperity plan, which is also called the CPP. And it is a roadmap, it's an in quote, a roadmap set to address climate change while also boosting economic prosperity. Now, illegal gold mining has caused significant environmental degradation, including pollution of water bodies and deforestation. There has been protests against this and call to the government to stop this illegal gold mining situation. We know that this is something that has become higher, like it has become something of importance in the past few years with the present government. So let's talk about the opposition party and how they plan to address these environmental issues. I'm directing that question to Mr. Mohammed Muntaka. Oh, it seems I lost Mr. Muntaka there.
You've asked a question that is dear to my heart. And people who know me on Twitter very well know that when this Galamsey issue started, I was part of there was a Twitter handle called Tokyo. I didn't want to continue the name. We were having Twitter spaces discussing the issue of Galamsey and all that. I spent the whole night, even sometimes contribute to support our brothers who were back home protesting the degradation and the rape of our forest and our environment. Now, just opposing that to the COP in Baku on what the president said, it's I don't know how to say it, but it is the double standard that we have in our politics nowadays. Because I remember when people were protesting in Ghana, the president didn't utter a word, not even a single word. Now, to give you some little background, up until 2016, when even or up to 2020, the number of licenses given to small-scale miners was about 100. If I remember the number quite clearly, it was about 150 thereabouts. But after the Natural Resource Land Act was amended, where the power to give licenses to small-scale mining was shifted to the presidency, we saw that the number has ballooned to over 1,000. Over 1,000 licenses given to small-scale miners. And the point is that people misconstrue small-scale mining to Galamsey. You can be a small-scale miner doing mining responsibly without destroying the environment. And you could be a big mining company and be destroying the environment or doing mining illegally. There was a report by the Fourth Estate that did an investigative expose on people who are destroying our forests. And it will intrigue you, and it is interesting to know that most of the kingpins are people associated to this particular government. A clear example is when the reports stated clearly that there are certain companies that belong to the Ashanti regional chairman of this current party, and they were given license for prospecting, not to mine, and they went into the forest and they were mining. Now, when you look at all the water bodies in Ghana, all the water bodies, about 70 to 80% of them had changed to brown coffee. Or let me say 2 colors. Some of them, the colors have changed into a Turkish coffee. That is the level of pollution. The normal turbidity allowed by the United Nations, ours is about 14,000 folds. That should tell you that the water is not safe for drinking. Another thing is that a research was done by some doctors around the area of where the mining is happening. And if you see that the damage of mercury and cyanide and lead has resulted into giving birth to babies who are deformed. A baby will come with one eye, a baby will come with 3 legs, and all those things. Like they're completely deformed. This is something that is very critical to the extent that now, when people were protesting, the government apparatchiks were saying that the mining is happening in the middle belt of the country. Why are you in the capital in the south protesting? Now, when you do Google Map, just check the Google Map. You can just check it live and check all the rivers in Ghana as they are feeding the tributaries that are feeding the sea. All the waters are completely gone. We've lost so many hectares of forest, and this is when we signed, or the parliament passed a bill to allow the rights to give licenses to be under the presidency. So we were expecting the president to control the number of licenses that is being given out to people to go and mine. And it's unfortunate that it is during that time, after that signing of this particular, after bringing this amendment into law, that we've had more than 1,000 licenses. More than 1,000 licenses. It's too bad. So what he said, if you put what he said at Baku against what is happening in Ghana, it is a complete contradiction. Complete contradiction. This government has not done anything that suggests, even after the protest and after all the noise, they deployed some soldiers to go around the river banks and all those things. And I remember watching on TV that one ex-police officer was saying that all these things they were doing was a charade, and that was true. Those guys went there, took some champagnes from the river, burned them, and left, and now the miners are back on the river again. So just opposing what is happening now, to the extent that to see the absurdity, the Lands Commission, who are also part of the organizations that give licenses to miners, in some portions of Ghana, I've forgotten the city name, people are mining illegally just behind the Land Commission's building. Just behind the Land Commission itself. People are mining there. So that should tell you what is happening. Now, when it comes to what the opposition is promising to do, because that is the question you asked, going through the manifesto of the opposition, it gave me some information that they want to do, because we cannot exonerate them also from mining, because there are some of their members who were mining some time ago. And up to today, I'm sure they were mining because there was a commission of inquiry by this particular president. And the commission of inquiry mentioned names of people in government and in the opposition who are into mining, and nothing has happened to those people. So the opposition, what is there is that, look, most of the people that have been arrested and jailed are young boys and girls who are looking for food to eat, who don't have work to do, who are struggling to find jobs to do, and because of their destitution, they go and mine for these companies. So the opposition is saying that instead of arresting those small boys, start arresting the kingpins, the politicians who are behind. And that was the policy they gave. And that they are going to have a ruthless fight against Galamsey by ensuring that people who own the earth-moving machines, the tractors, the bulldozers, those who are paying money for machines to come in to go into forest illegally and mine, those people will be jailed. And also, the opposition is also promising that they are going to engage the chiefs. But for me, I think engaging chiefs, most of them are complicit, because most of them are the ones who are allowing these particular things to happen. And we have examples of chiefs who have stood on their feet and insisted that Galamsey doesn't happen in their communities, and they succeeded. So for that one, I'm very doubtful. And we're talking about reclamation of land. Yes, it's a good thing to do, but the point is, how do you take away the mercury and the cyanide from the soil? And then they were also promising that they are going to put in a transparent reporting system, whereby they'll be able to ensure that proper reporting is being done and people are punished. Also, the government, the current vice president has also made a very good point that the most important thing is about data, because people are going into forests, into illegal places, dig, they don't find gold, and then they leave. So for him, he is saying, the current vice president is saying that if you vote for him, he's also going to look at providing the data available that, okay, instead of moving around digging everywhere, there's a data that shows that there is gold here, there is gold there. So when you are giving license, you know where exactly to go and mine. So all these two people are giving us their perception of how to fight galamsey. But for me, whatever the president said in Baku has nothing to do with what is happening in Ghana. It's completely out of touch with reality. And truth must be told that the fight against this illegal mining and the destruction of the forest should go beyond NDC, MPP, or whatever. It should be a national agenda. Our chiefs in particular should have been the ones championing this. And if they had championed it properly, I don't think that the politicians will be able to go into the forest and do whatever they are doing, because there are a lot of examples of chiefs who have completely stopped people from mining. And I think if we give the chiefs more power with a little bit of supervisory role, we'll be able to find this galamsey properly. And the last one, just 30 seconds. One of the chocolate factories, I've forgotten which country, has reported that they found heavy metals in their chocolates. And for that matter, they started investigating and trying to trace the roots. And these guys, Ghana is one of their key suppliers of cocoa. And most of this illegal mining and the destruction of forests and putting chemicals are happening in the cocoa growing areas. So if it happens that they trace most of their cyanide and chemicals and lead, mercury in the cocoa is coming from Ghana, that should tell you the impact is going to have on the next government, because we depend more on cocoa as our main source of rare exports. And that could affect Ghana in so many ways. So for the president to go and stand in Baku to say something, we know, well, that is a speech. But when you look at the reality on the ground, it is a total contradiction.
All right, there. Thank you very much, Mr. Muntaka. Unfortunately, we will have to end the program here. This will be the end of the program. So I'll just say a big thank you to Dr. Mohammed and Mr. Mohammed Muntaka. Thank you for granting us the time and your knowledge on the channel and on the program. We hope to see you next time.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. And with that, we've come to the end of today's program. It is still me, your host, Mercy Bamgola, and this is To Africa. For more questions and suggestions towards the program, we would like you to send in your messages to our WhatsApp number, which is always on the screen. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.